Hi guys. Had a couple of hours this afternoon spare, so I thought I'd have a go at a horseshoe knife. Now, I've seen a lot of these on YouTube and various other places, so I thought I'd have a go, but unfortunately I don't use a lot of shoes with a solid toe. So you could do it with a shoe that's fullered, but it's probably easier to do it without. You know, you don't have to get the groove out of the way then. So I found this old heart bar, no, egg bar. I've cut it in half, and we're going to use half of this to have a go at making a horseshoe knife. Now I'm going to use this end as the handle, and obviously the other end as the blade. Usual story, never made one before, so I don't know quite what I'm going to do with the handle, whether I'm going to twist it or leave it as it is. What we're going to do, we'll play it by ear, do it as we go. So let's see if we can find a pair of tongs to fit. Those should do it. Get it in the fire and get started. Turn the fire up. I think I'm going to start with this sort of half weight club hammer, then go on to probably my ball peen, but we'll see. Right, just going to straighten this out a bit first. Now I'm just going to sort of thin it out, draw it down a little bit. I think I'm going to use the bigger hammer. And see how much that's moving the camera around. Vibrations through the floor with that bigger hammer. So now I'm just, excuse me, got bubble in the throat. Just drawing that out, thinning it on one edge, obviously more than the other. Before I go too far, I think I'm going to straighten this handle end a little bit more, because that's too round and I need something decent to hold on to straighten it out a bit. Doesn't take long to heat up. Alright, I'm just going to pull this out a bit. Form the heel. Say the heel. The end of the shoe, or what will now be the handle. Just going to try and round it up a little bit. Not quite sure what I'm going to do with the end of it yet, but I'll just tidy it up a little bit for now. And it still wants pulling out a little bit, but I'll just straighten it up. I think actually the blade wants sort of pulling upwards a bit rather than the handle straightening out a bit more, but that's a bit better. As I say, never done one before, so it's all trial and error. I want to try and get the proportions right, so that the handle is sort of about the same sort of length as the blade. Not quite sure what I'm on about there. I think I can do away with them two. Stick with this one for the time being. Actually, I might use the slightly heavier one as a couple of pound or a couple of ounce heavier one there. That's a much nicer one actually. They're just slightly different makes. Right, carry on drawing it out a bit, just thinning it on the inside edge. Do it from both sides so it sort of stays sort of down the middle. Just want to shape it a bit more. So I've got no idea what I'm actually going to do. I'm just sort of seeing where it goes. Getting a bit warm. Just draw it out a bit more. Oh, that's a good one. Bust my handle. Now that's probably, yeah, rotted, completely rotted. That's probably because I keep them in water. I suppose really I should use linseed oil or something or other, but I don't. I just keep them in water, which is why they're always red rusty when they come out. This one will probably be the same, but I haven't broken one for ages actually, so another job to put right. Never mind, all in a day's work. At least it went down and not up in the air and hit me on the bonce. So I'm just thinning down that sort of bottom edge. The top edge is getting thin, but not as thin as the bottom edge, obviously. So it's sort of wedge shaped. Top's fairly, down the spine's fairly thick still. That's the general idea. I want to get these proportions, as I was saying earlier. I want to get the handle about the same sort of length as the blade. I don't want too much of one or the other. It's really difficult to judge, and obviously everyone's idea of right is different, but I like to sort of play about and try and get them what I think is right. Now I'm going to use my guillotine tool, might as well. Made it, so I might as well use it. I want to put a bit of a step in the sort of where the blade starts and the handle finishes, or vice versa. So I've set the stop up so we get it in the same distance. You can just about see where that mark is. I think I might need a bigger hammer really. You can see there's a step, and then I shall work the opposite way down the blade. But it's it just leaves a nice defining line, rather than having to try and do it on the anvil and get it in the right place at the right, each time. So using that with a stop just makes life a little bit easier. As I say, I don't think I've used this in one of my videos before, apart from the one where I made it. Just going to go a bit heavier, bigger hammer, give it a bit of a go, and that's better. You can see now that's thinned that down quite a bit, so it's got a nice step in it now, so I can work from that back down the blade. So we can thin the blade out down the spine a little bit, and it just sort of separates the handle from the blade. Not that there's any reason to, it's just I think it looks a little bit nicer. So we can get rid of that now. It's done its job. So I'm just going to keep warming this up. Obviously takes a lot of time to keep doing these with lots of little heats. I'm just thinning the spine a little bit now, just making, well, all of it really, just get it down to the thickness that I set in it with the guillotine tool. Obviously the spine is still going to be thicker than the cutting edge. It is still going to be tapered. That's the sort of general idea. Try and keep it down the middle. Try not to forge back in too much scale. So when you come to file it or sand it or whatever, you'll have a hell of a job to get it all out if you've forged a lot of that back in. And that handle's still not quite right. I'm just going to try and bring it up a bit, I think. Straighten it a bit more and we'll bring the blade back up. Not sure. So it's all very personal. It's all done by eye and how my eye likes it. It's not set to any rules or regulations. It's just how I like the look of it. Let's see if I can hold it. These tongs aren't really holding it very well. So I just want to, I can't really get hold of it. Tidying that up a bit, doing the handle end a bit. It's really struggling to hold these. I'm going to get another pair of tongs. No point buggering about. No, those don't work very well either. Let's see what else we've got on the rack. Got all sorts of tongs all over the place. Try these old ones, they're pretty knackered as well. They might hold it. No, yes, no, sort of. No. Let's see if I can close them up a bit. They're real knackered old tongs then. They came out of a sale, I think. Someone had butchered them. I'm just taking the edges off now, just holding the shoe at sort of an angle and just taking the corners off, just making it slightly more comfortable to hold. It's sort of less sharp. I still think either that end's got to come up or it's got to be bent from there. Don't know. Get it back in, warm her up, have another fiddle. See if we can close these tongs up a bit more. Oh, there's another one buggered. Oh, I'm breaking all sorts today. And so they were knackered in the first place. I've had them God knows how many years, and I haven't welded them up. They've been welded up well before I got them. So it doesn't surprise me that they've had it. I might not even bother to weld them up. I might just sling them. Let's see if I can go around and find a decent pair. There we go. That will definitely hold it. I don't know why I didn't pick them up in the first place, just because they're over the other side of the shop. Right, that's better. Get hold of it now. Right, I'm just going to pull that out a bit, straighten it up, and already I feel better about that. Just pulling that little bit out and around this end of the handle off. Yeah, feel better about that already, just that little bit straighter. I still think I'm going to bring the blade up from the transition point. Is that the word? Probably. Alright, let's have a sort out. Get rid of that one. Get rid of them. Don't need them anymore. See, these are almost identical. I made these some years ago, and that one's just a bit narrower than the other for holding virtually flat stuff. Or virtually flat, virtually, you know, nothing, very thin stuff. I'm just going to bend that back down a bit. A little bit more. That's better. See, again, it's not much. It's just what appeals to my eye. That's sort of how I'm going to leave it, I think. Not sure yet. Get it straightened up. I think I might call it a day on the forging for that one. I quite like the shape. Not much more I can do with the hammer. So I'm going to cool that down, or let it cool, and then I'm going to stick it in the vise and grind the final shape. Right, we're over in the dark corner now, so I hope you'll be able to see. Now, that is a knackered flat disc, so I think we're going to be there all day. So I'm going to get the proper grinder out and do the first bit of it, but of course it's not plugged in. So just take out the wire brush, plug that in. Now I'm just going to take out the worst of the hammer marks and sort of get it to its sort of final shape. Of course, I haven't really got the camera in the right place for this. Nice view of my elbow, but apart from that, I'm just working down the spine. As you can't see, I'll tell you what I'm doing. Just sort of smoothing out the shape of the spine. Now just touching up the shape of the blade. I really want it to finish up like before I get the fine sanding disc on and then sandpaper, etc, etc. I'm not really sure whether I want to bother too much with finishing the blade on this, because it's not going to be, what's the word, you know, it's not going to be a high class bit of equipment. You know, it is at the end of the day just an old horseshoe. It's not particularly high carbon steel, although the shoes these days are much higher in carbon than they ever used to be. When I first started, cool, knocking on 40 years ago, the steel that they made the horseshoes out of was absolutely rubbish. I think it was all the slots that was left over they'd make full of concave out of. But these days they have improved it, and it is definitely harder and obviously has got a bit of a higher carbon content, but to be honest, I don't think it's enough to bother with hardening and tempering. So you won't see me doing that on this particular job. So I've just tidied that heel up. I've just tidied the blade up to the sort of shape I want. So that's sort of roughed it out. Now I can smooth it off a bit more. Yeah, I like that. Nice sort of feel to it. Fits in the hand nicely. So we're just going to give it a bit of a light sand now. Of course, got to plug everything back in again. Actually, I'm just going to wire brush the handle because it's sort of covered in bits of sort of scale and slag and stuff, and it's uncomfortable to hang on to. So we'll get that cleaned up a little bit. and get all the crud out the fullering. I really must get some more lights in this shop. Over this side is decidedly dull. Right, so that's sort of little focus, cleaned the handle bit up, as you can see. So now I've just got to clean the blade up a bit more. And what I'm going to do, because I haven't got a proper sort of knife grinder's belt sander, I've got my big linisher over there, the big belt sander, but I bought this wheel and put this little fine belt on it, and we're going to use that to start with, just to take the worst of it off. And this is a nice fine wheel. I'm just going to run it backwards and forwards gently, take a lot of the coarse grinding marks out. I suppose I could if I was clever. If you can see, that's doing quite a good job already. Yeah, I suppose if I was clever I could set this up somewhere with a what do you call it, like a, I don't know what you call it, somewhere to rest the knife on anyway. But because I don't do enough knife making, there's not really much point. 99% of my stuff is one-offs when I make these things. You often hear me say, I've never done this before. So to be honest, there's not much point in me having specialist tools for special jobs. All my tools are sort of general tools. And this is a quite a handy little thing. It's I don't know if you noticed, there was grooves all the way around the rubber, and as it spins around, you have to put it on a certain way, and as it spins it opens itself out. It expands, some sort of an expanding wheel, and holds the belt on. So that's got the worst of the coarse marks out of it. So now I'm going to get the wet and dry on it. I don't know how much I'm going to bother, because I haven't got any real coarse wet and dry. I'm limited. I think the coarsest I've got is about 400, which is not that coarse really, but we'll give it a go. If it takes too long, I shall give up. But as I say, it's not really worth spending an awful lot of time on it, because it is just a general tool. I don't know if you can see, there's in this dark light, the black juice arriving. I've just changed the setting on the camera, so it's going to look like it's slow motion now, because I've set it to low light, and of course it's changed the I don't know if it's changed the aperture priority or the it's changed the priority somewhere or other anyway, and it's lightened it up, but it's made it blurry and all the rest of it. But, you can see with the black juice that's coming off that the wet and dry is working quite well. No, I don't think I like this setting, so I don't think I'll be using it for a lot of the video. Oh no. Anyway, at least you can see a bit better what I'm doing. You can see the black juice coming off. So I shall probably turn the camera off for a little while, because it's going to bore you to death, me just rubbing this backwards and forwards. I'm going to try and get the worst of the marks out, because obviously it will look nicer if it hasn't got too many heavy marks in it. So I've done that. I did turn the camera off. I've done as much as I'm going to do. and then we're back on now, and I'm going to polish it. So we're back on the polisher. I've got all sorts of different colours. There's green, white, brown, grey. I'm going to start with a grey one, which is a very coarse one. And we'll see what happens. We'll rub it up and down a few times. So I don't want to spend too much time on it. I think this video is going to be about half an hour long. But it's actually taken probably an hour and a half with all the sanding in between. And as with all these things, the finish is proportionate to the amount of effort you put in with everything throughout life. And it's the same with this. I want it to look nice, but obviously it's only a horseshoe. If it was a piece of nice, real good high carbon steel, and you were making it for somebody, or you were making it as a real nice tool for yourself, then you'd spend the time. But it's an old horseshoe, and as you probably know, knives in our country, you're not really allowed to carry anything large, sort of 2 or 3 inch. That caught up then. Good job I was holding tight. Yeah, 2 or 3 inches maximum, and you wouldn't dare carry it in a high street. Around the countryside you'd probably be alright, but unless you've got a specific purpose for carrying anything more than a couple of inches, then you're in trouble. So all my knives that I make are for decoration. So this will probably go home and become a letter knife or something similar, or just sit on the side with the bolt knife that I made, and it won't be put with the other two. They're tucked away, well out of the way. I don't want any burglar to come in and see them on display and use them against me, so they're hidden. But having said that, just something like this they could do me an awful lot of damage with, but anything can become a weapon if you really put your mind to it. Shove a rolled up newspaper down someone's throat, you could kill them, but pencil in the eye, whatever. Anyway, I'm just waffling now because this is dragging on a bit, but I want to try and make it a little bit nice, but like I say, I don't want to spend too much time on it. I'm not sure if I'm going to call that a day or not. I might do what I did with the sanding and turn the camera off for a little while, because it's as boring as buggery watching someone do this. So we'll just clean it up a bit, get the polish off, see what it looks like. Well, that's getting there. You can see there's still quite a few marks in it, but it's getting much shinier. You can see a reflection in it, but there is still quite a few marks down here which I'd like to try and get out. So I think I'll turn the camera off for a little while, get these fine ones out up near the transition, and come back once I've got it a bit better. Right, I've had another sort of 10 or 15 minutes at it, and it's still not brilliant, but it's much better. You can see there that that's pretty shiny on both sides. If I was doing this for somebody else or whatever, I would spend an awful lot more time on it, but it is just a demo and I'm pretty pleased with it. So all I'm going to do now is something I don't normally do. Well, first I'm going to give it another wire brush up just to get any final bits of scale and stuff off the handle. And you do find that the wire brush takes any sharp edges off. It's amazing how it just rounds off the little sharp bits. So I'm just giving it a final go. Do the other side. Because I don't want to sand it and take all the character out of the shoe itself. That's why I'm using the wire brush. I want to keep the texture that was there originally. I just want it cleaner, and as you can see, the texture's still there. And I really like the feel of that. That fits nicely in both hands, even the dodgy one. So what I'm going to do, something I don't normally do, I'm going to put my initials on it. I don't normally put my name on anything that I make, but I just thought I would today, for some reason. So I've got a couple of old letter punches. If I can get them the right way up. I've done that numerous times on jobs. Got it all set up and put one of the letters the wrong way up. And of course you buggered the job. There we go. There we go, on the end there, personalised. So, I'm pleased with that. It's my first horseshoe knife. As I say, I'm not going to do any hardening and tempering because I just don't think there's enough carbon in there. I've put a bit of an edge on it, nothing major, so it'll probably go home as a letter knife, but it'll be sharp enough for me, and I'm pretty pleased with that. So another first attempt. So that's an idea for you. You know, if you want to do something for a friend or a family member or whatever, that's an idea on how to do it. I think it looks quite nice, and obviously you can do all sorts of other things with it. You could twist the handle, you could shape it differently, but that's my take on it. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.